so let's get to tonight's case. This is the case of a 19-year-old girl named Sarah Stern from Neptune City, New Jersey, which is part of the Jersey Shore. So let's start from the point where the mystery first began. By the way, this is a solved case, okay? By the end, you will have no doubt about what happened, okay? It's not the kind of case where we're probably going to have to debate anything. But on December 3rd, 2016, an Uber driver was driving across the Belmar Bridge and he saw an abandoned car. Just abandoned along the side of the bridge, which is very strange. So he called the police and told them. So they went right over there to check it out. And they took a look at the car. There was nobody inside, but the door was not locked and the keys were still in the ignition. And side note, the like CCTV or whatever they call it over there, security camera, wasn't working. So forget about that. We're not gonna get any footage. Alright, so they run the plates, and the car belongs to 96-year-old Lillian Stern. Now, I didn't mention it's like 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning or something, okay? Anyway, they go over to this 96-year-old's house. She is there, safe and sound, and she told them that it's her granddaughter, Sarah, who drives that car. So they go over to the house where Sarah lives in Neptune City, and there's nobody home, but the door isn't locked. Well, they go inside, but they don't find anything. So they call the owner of the house, who is Sarah's father. He is on vacation in Florida, like nothing out of the ordinary, you know. He had just, left his adult daughter, she was 19, for a little while he went on a trip to Florida. Something typical, for people to do in the winter. And he had no idea what was happening. He hadn't heard from Sarah. He started calling her and he wasn't getting any answer. So he hopped in his car and drove 16 hours back to his home in New Jersey. Nervous, worried, out of his mind, with good reason. only child that they ever had. And all was well. Until the mother died of cancer, sadly, when Sarah was 14. And as anybody would be, she was extremely grief-stricken, understandably, and it was hard for her to deal with the loss. But she wound up throwing herself into artwork as a way to express herself. And when she graduated from high school, she enrolled at the community college for a degree in art and TV production. Now, she was also very active on the internet, the stuff at the neighbor's house. I don't know why. But the neighbor said that Liam was with her, and they were heading out to do some errands. So, they went to see Liam. That's her childhood friend from when she was 6, remember? Her best friend. And he said, yes, he went out with her, they did errands, they went to Taco Bell. He doesn't know what happened to her. He said, she said she wanted to move to Canada. Maybe she just took off and moved to Canada. Now, I'm thinking, oh, right, you want to move to Canada, so you just leave your car on the side of a bridge. Like, that makes sense. And interestingly enough, everywhere that I read the story or listened to the story, nobody said what I'm saying right now, which is, how is that even possible? Like, you don't move to Canada or run away to Canada by abandoning your car on a bridge. That wouldn't make sense, okay? But that, okay, maybe. He said, or she was a little bit depressed, about her mother, and maybe she took her life, and jumped in. That could be. So, they let him go. Now, the police spoke with the bank where she had an account, and they found out that she had been there on December 2nd and had visited her safe deposit box, and Liam was there. Now, Liam never mentioned this, but, he strangled her at her house, and he said it took so long. He thought it would be like a 2-minute deal, but it took a half an hour. And he knew that because he timed it. Yeah, he timed it on his phone, on the timer. After it was all done, he went to work as planned. Then it was difficult to have a funeral. But ultimately, in July of 2017, they had what they called like a celebration of her life, and 1,000 visitors came, and there were speakers who spoke about her, and her artwork was displayed, and it sounds like it was really, really touching. Kind of bittersweet, you know. So, that is the case. What do you think? I'll tell you what I think, but you probably already know what I think. I think that once again, we have to know our friends better. I mean, I just cannot understand. I'm not blaming her at all, not even a tiny bit, but I'm just saying, how is it that we have friends for so many years and never think that they are a lunatic? Like, how is that possible? They can't go from being just a wonderful, loyal, sweet friend to killing you. You know, that just isn't a thing. That's not possible. So I'm really thinking these guys weren't as wonderful as she thought from the get-go, you know? I have to say though, like, when you hear them speak, they sound totally normal. I mean, what they're saying isn't normal, but they just seem like regular kids from New Jersey, you know what I mean? And by the way, they were both from middle-class families who had enough money to, you know, support them. Granted, they were both, you know, over 18. But they were not in dire need of money. They just wanted the money. You know, and it was kind of like, well, Liam really wanted the money. And Preston was like, yeah, I could go for some money. Sure, I'll help you so I can get some of that money. Like, how did they find two people who are both evil? Or just completely, you know, not caring about human life? And they're both friends. You have to think maybe, you know, birds of a feather flock together. That they are friends because they are similar like that. But from what I've heard, it doesn't sound like Sarah was like that. Why was she friends with them? Like, are there things that we can take from this? Can we learn specific things to look for so we do not, you know, trust people who will stab us in the back like this? Now, do we think that Preston is just as bad as Liam? Or is he, you know, somehow better? The judge thought he was just as bad, basically. I don't remember the exact words. But he did say something to that extent. And what about Anthony? Should he have thought anything when Liam told him, I am going to strangle her and throw her off the bridge and steal her money? Well, we can't expect him to know that Liam was serious. Although I think it's kind of weird. Who says that? You know, nobody says those kind of things, and they just don't. Like, that's not funny. Especially since she was supposed to be like his best friend. So I don't know, but I mean, I'm not gonna blame Anthony, obviously.